Good evening. Sorry about that. Good evening. Welcome to Newton County Board of Education, combined work session and a regular monthly meeting agenda. First thing we want to do is open this session by asking Mrs. Baker to lead us with the invocation and the pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Please bow your head. Father, in the name of Jesus, thank you for this time. Thank you for allowing us to serve you. Father, I pray for the safety of our children in the wake of the incident that happened in Connecticut. Father, I pray for the families that the incident affected. And Father, I pray that you allow us to work together as a board, fully operating and doing the best that we can for the children in our school system. Father, I pray for peace. I pray for understanding. Father, I pray that you give us the wisdom to make sound and good decisions. Father, I pray that this system continues to improve and to progress. In the name of Jesus, amen. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. We'll go to our special recognition presentation. Ms. Shannon Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Matthews, Board of Education members, good evening. How are y'all tonight?
Good evening.
Thank you for having me tonight, and the Newton Education Foundation board members that are here with us. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Newton Education Foundation, a board which I'm currently chairing, have been on since 2009, since its inception, and we are a local nonprofit, 501c3. If you all are not familiar with us, I think you all have at least in a memo from us at one point or another. But we're dedicated to raising private dollars for public educators. It's great. This is a fun part of my job that I love to do. But including this grant cycle, which we're giving away tonight to 3 very deserving teachers, we've given away close to $24,000. And that's private dollars that we've raised throughout the community and neighboring communities of folks who have been graduates of Newton County Schools. So we're thrilled that we've been able to raise those funds. The grants that we give away, a lot of the words that we use in the application that are used by the administrators in their recommendation letters is that it improves teacher effectiveness. They're innovative in nature. It increases student achievement and engagement. They are cross-curriculum projects that are hands-on. We see that over and over in the award recipients that in all the applications, but they really stand out in the groups that we are giving the awards away to. So if I could ask my fellow board members to stand that are here tonight from the foundation. Ms. Hillary Egger, Ms. Tina Ulmer, and Mr. Flemmy Pitts, who are all on the foundation board. If y'all want to go ahead, can I go ahead and bring them up, and then I'm going to introduce
Sure.
the teachers, and we'll just take a picture?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Y'all want to come on up? So the winter grant application we just wrapped up. We got about 20 applications that were all phenomenal. We had a very difficult process to choose those, and we're here tonight to congratulate those recipients. I've already visited with each of them individually at their schools and congratulated them, given their paperwork. So tonight we're just going to we're going to publicly recognize those folks. So Mr. Stephen Joyce from Newton County Theme School, his project is "What does STEM have to do with physical education?" Question mark. Simple machines! Exclamation point. Yes, sir. Absolutely, Mr. Joyce. Thank you. Miss Rhonda Rogers from Challenge Charter Academy. Her project was digitally speaking. Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And Miss Angela Cooper from the Newton College and Career Academy, Bones Are Worth 1,000 Words, and she is actually out of town for the Christmas break already. Mr. Woodard is standing in on her behalf. So these 3 grant recipients are wonderful. We at the elementary, middle, and high school level, we awarded a grant, and so we are thrilled to do it tonight. So we'll take a quick picture, and then we'll. You want one on that side?
Stand up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Got your coat.
Oh, my coat. Oh, wait a minute.
Sorry, we're all about the photo op. Thank you for that and for giving us a few minutes on your agenda. We greatly appreciate it. This is, like I said, one of the great things that we get to do in our jobs and we volunteer for, and we're just so proud to be able to honor these teachers. And I see Ms. Worthy just came in. That's okay, and Mr. Meneguzzo, they were thrilled when we gave them the call for the grants. So we hope that in the spring you will join us for our reception honoring these teachers and when they will be able to display their projects. And we'll keep you posted on that. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause, everybody. We have another presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, as you know, the state of Georgia requires local school board members to undergo what the state calls local board training. And with that note, this board has undergone that training and has successfully completed it. And tonight, I've been asked by Griffin Risa to present to you your respective certificates. So that said, Chairman Johnson, yours.
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. Vice Chair Metters, Mr. Metters. Ms. Coggin. Ms. Henderson Baker.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And Mr. Turner.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members, and congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Mathis. Any other? That's it? No. Okay, no public participation. So we'll move with the approval of the agenda. I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
Second.
Oh,
Has been,
I'm sorry. I was going fast, sorry.
okay, all in favor of accepting the agenda, let it run by the word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Approval of the minutes, I need a motion and a
So
second.
move.
Second, please. Okay, we have that. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We'll go to the superintendent's report. And we'll start off with the operations. Ms. Ballard?
For the finance report, expenditures are better than budgeted at this time with 40.71% spent and 41.67% of the year completed. And they look better this year than last year because we were forward funding the state health insurance plan. Tax revenues are also close to last year with 55.41% collected versus 55.9 last year. The capital projects revenue on page 5 includes $807,181 in E-rate funds that we have received to date for our technology center. And you've also received the annual advertisement of our SPLOST expenditures, which we're required to publish every year in by December 31st, excuse me. And SPLOST collections for the month, we received $917,618, so that is our 8th straight month of receiving more than $900,000. So that's going well still. Is there any questions about the financial statement?
Any questions, members? No. Thank you. Now we move to operations report. Ross?
Good evening. I just want to highlight a couple of items on the operation report. First of all, under capital projects, a monthly project meeting for the Newton High School project was held on November 28th. From that meeting, you can see all roofing has been completed and the final punch list will be performed by the end of the month. HVAC work is ongoing and heat is circulating through the building. Overall, the project is approximately 83% complete and currently on schedule. We're very pleased with the progress of this project and look forward to it opening this summer. In the procurement department, they have issued a request for qualified suppliers for comprehensive print management services for the school system. This solution will include a copier print device pricing agreement, maintenance agreements, print management, copy center, print production, software, and education and training component. The company selected in this phase will subsequently be invited to offer proposals in response to an upcoming request for proposals for comprehensive print management services. And then finally, under student transportation, the average cost for diesel fuel purchased during November was $3.56. Fuel purchased was last purchased in October for $3.60. And I think Ms. Lumens has a couple of comments about school nutrition.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Under maintenance and operations, we completed 498 work requests this month, and with 432 have been completed. And under school nutrition, I would like to just point out our system-wide percentage for free and reduced meals. We report that every year in November, and our percent this year is 66.95. This is a 1.3% increase over last school year. We've had a steady increase over the last 5 years. So, does anybody have any questions about that?
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, one more item in the operations report
Thank
before
you.
we move to curriculum instruction. Items I think the board should know. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock at Newton High School, CNN will be present, and their intent is to interview Principal Craig Lockhart, if not one or more teachers, with respect to their view path. What's the other system called?
SAFE.
Which stands for Security Alert for Education. And for those who are not familiar with that, we've been piloting in 20 classrooms the camera system, which is ViewPath, and the silent alarm system, which is known as SAFE. And very much a positive thing. I saw it in operation just today, and we have that signal that rings at the front office, and then it tells you immediately what classroom or location in the building is being impacted by an intruder or some disruption, and that allows the principal to go right to a camera that then focuses on that area to view in what may be occurring. So CNN has picked up on this, and they're going to be at Newton High School tomorrow. Following that, I think at 10 o'clock tomorrow, I have the opportunity to be a part of a National Public Radio NPR broadcast where I too will speak to the issue of school safety along with several others from around the country and speak to ViewPath and SAFE. Hopefully tomorrow I'll remember SAFE, S-A-F-E, it stands for. But I do know how it operates and what it does and the potential it has for our children's further security. So we'll see how all that goes. I think Dan Dominich, who's the president of the American Association of School Administrators, I'll be joining him and several others from around the country. So that's all at Newton High School tomorrow. So I'm not sure whether the CNN broadcast is live or will be filmed for later in the day or what have you, but one or the other.
It's later.
Later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, don't worry.
Thank you, Dr. Mathis. I have a question, Mr. Barr, please. You can't get away that freely, you know.
I let Ms. Lumens up.
No, this will be easy. I know we're looking forward to a completion to start school first of the year, but when do we anticipate on getting an occupancy permit that will allow us the use of the school so that I know we got a lot of planning to do, so that now we can have a date that we can start concentrating on?
Substantial completion for the project is April 13. The drop dead date for the high school that the contractor has is June 13. In my conversations with them, they hope to be out of there by middle of May. That's their goal. And with the progress that they've made, I anticipate that that will not be a problem.
So May 1st, we'll have an occupancy permit.
That, probably, no, it'll probably take till mid-June to get the real occupancy permit. But they'll be out of the way and finished with the project mid-May, which will allow us to start getting furniture in. We'll start getting furniture in April and start furnishing the building.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I do have one question related
sorry.
to that. I'm sorry, Mr. Barr. Just a simple question. We can go in there now, we just need to contact.
Just let me know when you
Okay.
want to go.
And you'll schedule a date
Yes, ma'am.
for us. Okay.
Excuse me, is that for a board request or individual? Ms. Baker?
Oh, it's for a board. Well, mine is for an individual. It can be board, though. We usually do board. Do y'all
What do
wanna
the
go
board feel
ahead
about
and
that? We
set a
should get the date. Anybody interested in participating?
Yeah,
Okay.
Is that okay? We're not intruding on your data.
No.
Okay, okay.
Mr.
Thank
Barr is
you.
engaged.
Married.
Oh, you're married now? Okay, Mr. Barr is married. I'm married too. We're both taken.
And as part of
Thank
the
you,
agenda, Mike, it became part of the agenda of your wedding.
Now we'll move to the curriculum and instruction. Mr. Peck?
Good evening.
Good evening.
On the first page, number 2, I would like to point out that 30 elementary teachers are participating in a math endorsement through a partnership with Georgia Tech Center for Education that integrates science, mathematics, and computing. And it's also a part of the members of the STEM faculty at Georgia Tech. Also, number 3, more than 30 middle school teachers are participating in content-specific science professional learning, which is made possible through the attainment of the Math Science Partnership Grant and supported through a partnership with the Georgia Tech and Seismic. Under technology integration, number 7, Mr. Fayal had the opportunity to attend and present at the Georgia Educational Technology Conference in Atlanta. This was a 3-day conference that consisted of over 300 technology-rich breakout sessions from presenters across the state. Mr. Fayal led 3 presentations that demonstrated how NCSS Title I schools are integrating social networking tools and mobile apps into classroom instruction. Also, number 13, Angela Stone, one of our special education paraprofessionals, visited an orphanage in Haiti over the Thanksgiving break to work with children who have significant disabilities. Angela was able to take donations such as wheelchairs for children who had been confined to cribs for most of the day and night. Newton County special education teachers donated toys, equipment, and supplies. And there's a picture there of her. Number 19, the technology department is in the process of implementing a system-wide asset management system. This system will allow for the district to do a better job of tracking its assets when it's time to conduct an inventory review. A total of 13 schools, the board office and Palmer Stone, will be using Asset Manager this year, with the other schools slated for a 4-year 2013 implementation. The last item is number 24. Kathy Hatchett, our ESOL lead teacher, escorted 32 middle and high school students, 3 parents, and 4 teachers to the Latin American Association Youth Leadership Conference that was held in December 1st, 2012 at Emory University. Students were able to participate in workshops and activities to promote higher education and encourage culture awareness. They were provided tools to develop leadership skills and overcome challenges and obstacles. College and networking resources were available to students. Special sessions were provided for parents and teachers. That concludes our curriculum and instruction and technology report for this month.
Any questions from the board members? Thank you, Mr. Peck.
Thank you.
Now you going to do the enrollment?
Enrollment, yes, sir. As of December the 13th, our enrollment was 19,147, which is a difference of 54 students from December 2011. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Peck, Sam, I have a question. I know we got an email giving us the number of private school students. It went down, as I recall, approximately 150, 180. Any significant revealing of that why? And we didn't see any corresponding increase with that decrease. Am I making the right assumption here?
I recall the email simply passing on from Renee's office the drop in enrollment in local private and parochial schools, private schools, I believe it was, to be direct and specific. And I think the reduction was 200 or 300. I forgot the exact number now. Maybe as much as 300, in fact. And that said, we've not seen a commensurate increase in public school enrollment. So I would presume that drop indicates individuals who are moving out of the county or who are doing homeschooling or something along those lines. But we've not seen a commensurate increase in the public school enrollment.
Thank you.
Sam, is there a way to gather data? Does Renee gather data from home school cooperatives and home-based programs, home study programs?
Yes, I do believe we have to report that information to the state, so I'm not sure, I don't have the number.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yes. You can also look at those numbers too. Kids that are in the enrollment, some students left over the summer or have left since then, and we have received some students from private schools. So it's sort of, it's hard to always know if it's balancing itself out or not.
Thank you very much.
I do have one question. I'm sorry. I know I'm the late person here. And it has to do with the enrollment report, and I don't know if anybody can tell me. Some of the schools, or at least like say Flint Hill, for example, is almost at its cap, because that's for 1,200 students, right? So we're very close. It's 13?
I think it's 1,300.
Is it 13 or 12?
It's 12.
It's 1,200, okay.
Oh, the size of the school, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's 13.
13.
Okay. So one thing that we were trying to do is not use like trailers and stuff like that. So since it seem like they keep increasing every month, or what will happen once we get there?
We'll have to sort of
Wait till we get there.
Yeah. What we've done, we've looked at multiple things related to Flint Hill, the elementary schools, and
Okay.
sort of looking at proportionality and
Yeah.
assigning of administrators and teachers, and we've ranked the schools based on a range, so we can look at the proportionality from students to school leaders to make sure that no school is so far removed from the average. As far as space is concerned at Flint Hill, I would probably think that we would have to look at some other alternative locations. I would note, though, I think Flint Hill is down a few students. At one point, they were probably like 4 students away from 1,200, and now they're at 1,183. So
Yeah.
it fluctuates quite a bit.
Yeah, because last year was 10 something.
Right. And so I think, the neighborhoods are repopulating. So I expect that we'll get close to that number at some point, the magic number of, and it may be higher than 13, actually, now that I think about it.
It may be 1350, but it's somewhere right around 1,300,
Yeah,
I remember.
I just can't remember the space requirements as far
Okay.
as how many kids we can hold in the school.
But you guys have already kind of
Oh, yeah.
had, okay, that's
Yes.
just what I want to make sure.
Can I ask a question? Have we looked at the number of homes that are vacant in each district? And the reason I ask that question is because when the economy turns around, these homes are going to be occupied, and that's going to definitely have an effect upon our populations of our schools. So is there any way that we can, based on our lack of a better term, expectation of how many students at each household, that we can kind of predict how our student population would go based on the vacant residents?
Well, I don't know if based on the Versatrans, we can identify and pinpoint kids who are currently in the system, but just from reading the newspaper recently, I know that there was some discussion about the Baxter facility and the availability of homes in our county, and especially in a given price range. So that's about as far as I know as the availability, but I'm certain that there's a way to find out what homes are vacant through the chamber, through the homeowners associations.
And the reason I asked that question, I think, would be to our advantage to kind of, we look at it so we can kind of be proactive.
Right.
Like, we have some schools that's coming close to
Yes.
capacity, that we can start, pre-planning what we're gonna do.
Yes. I agree.
Okay, and I want to chime in on that too, because I was, Mill Ridge is bubbling at the top also. So I think we need to do a review of what the capacity, school capacity versus enrollment for all of our schools. We may be on the edge of
think
trying to
Dr.
some
Carpenter-
rezoning, possibly, and should be proactive in this regard. So I think we should look at that data and have it available, hopefully in January. Is that an unfair request?
Well, Dr. Carpenter usually makes those sort of adjustments and looks at the data, but we certainly can get together and pull something together to give, maybe not the first meeting in January, but perhaps the second meeting in January,
Fine.
the regular session. So we'll look to see what we can pull together related to the size of the building and the number of students and the space that's available in each of the
Correct.
schools.
Right.
We'll pull you that ratio.
Appreciate that. Thank you kindly.
Thank you.
Now we'll go to old business. Ms. Fury, you left a little bit too quick.
There's nothing additional for the I policies.
So this has to stay on the agenda another month?
Nope, it is time for a vote
vote
tonight.
tonight.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you kindly. Let's take care of that one now. All in favor? The recommendation, old business?
We gotta get a motion.
I said, all in favor? Oh, excuse me. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have motion and second. All in favor? Will be known by aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we go to new business. And you want to introduce?
Sure. With us tonight is Dr. Plunkett from GSBA, and the board has asked Dr. Plunkett to make a presentation on GSBA superintendent search process.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, forgive my throat, but also forgive my back.
You may be seated.
I'm having some problems with my back, and with your permission, I'm going to sit while we make this presentation. I've asked my friend, Dr. Woodard here to assist me. He owes me some favors from our days. Of course, I probably owe him some favors from our days.
That's the way I remember it. Thanks.
Thank you.
I don't have one of those button downs.
Well, again, good evening. And I deeply appreciate on behalf of your Georgia School Board Association the opportunity to make this presentation. You know from your work with us that the Georgia School Board Association is the organization that represents the collective resolve of all Georgia's 180 school districts. We provide a wide variety of services. We've already talked about the policy service that you folks are involved in, the policy update service, and there are many more. Tonight we're here to talk about the superintendent search service. It goes without saying that as a local board of education, there's probably no single greatest decision that you'll make than naming the next superintendent. In this day and age of Senate Bill 84 and the school governance legislation that's come out of the Georgia General Assembly, it's imperative that the board and the superintendent work together as a part of the school governance team to make sure that leadership is provided for this great quality school district. Several items in your packet. I won't take an awful lot of time to go over a lot of them, but basically over on the left side You've got sort of the Reader's Digest version of the superintendent search process. That's just to kind of give you an opportunity to look at an overview. What I'd like to do, with your permission, is to use this document as we work through the process. It's over on the right side of your packet. First of all, I'm not here to make a sales pitch. We believe that we provide a quality service. And we understand that legally the Board of Education doesn't have to do a superintendent search. You have someone that the board could agree on, you can name that person as your superintendent and ride off into the sunset together. We also believe, though, that the board has an obligation to the community to be able to say at the end of the search process that you have had an opportunity to see who's out there, who the candidates are, and that you've made a special effort to bring the most qualified candidate to the school district. Beginning on page 2, there are a lot of benefits to using someone like GSBA to do the search service, primarily because it is highly labor intensive. We do have boards of education who will do their own search, but once we go through this process, I think you'll see that this is probably a greater task than the board and certainly your staff wants to get involved in, because it is very time consuming, very, very labor intensive. Now, I want to say up front, and I hope that this comes through very clear both to the members of the board and to the audience, we do not select your superintendent. That's not our job. That's why you get paid the big bucks. Our job is to make sure that if you decide to use our search service, that you will have a list of highly qualified candidates, and that those candidates then will be judged against the criteria or the qualifications that this board sets. So all the way through this process, you'll see that the Board of Education will have opportunities to make decisions, and that we will be here just to assist you, particularly in what I call the logistics of doing a superintendent search, the paperwork, the phone calls, the having materials printed, and that sort of. So I said we've been in the business a while. If you look on page 3, we will, by adding Berrien County this week, we will have accomplished 245 superintendent searches since 1988, including a search or 2 for your school system. And so we have had some practice in being out and about and making sure that our superintendent search service is fine-tuned. If you'll flip over through those pages of list of systems where we've done a superintendent search to page 9, you'll see that there's some things that the board will want to keep in mind as we do the search. You need to make sure that you follow your policies. The board has policies dealing with naming the superintendent. You want to make sure that the Board of Education follows those. You'll want it from various times to have your board attorney involved, particularly when it comes to things like contractual work and the like, because that's very, very important. You want to think about the budget, because every decision the board makes, of course, has something to do with the budget, particularly in this case when it comes to salaries and benefits and the like of your chief executive officer. You want to make sure that the word gets out, and that's what we do for you. We, through the print media and through the electronic media, make sure that we cover the waterfront so that candidates from all around will know that the Newton County school system is in search of a superintendent. We also have the responsibility to try to keep it legal. And we use the services of Harbin and Hartley to assist us, give us advice as far as the search process is concerned. And as I said, you'll want to work with your board attorney, your local attorney, to make sure that that happens as well. I always like to start off, when we talk about the legal side of the issues, with a review, very brief review of the new open meetings, open records law that the General Assembly passed last year. If you look on page 11, you'll see that there are 2 aspects of the open meetings, open records law that really apply to the superintendent search process. And basically, we like to encourage you to keep the process as transparent as possible, but there will be times when you'll be dealing with confidential information. And so the law allows you at various times during the process to go into executive session to receive reports and information and to share information with each other as to your perceptions of the candidates and the like. But ultimately, once you decide on a candidate or candidates and you come to a vote, that vote has to be in a public meeting. It's like any other contract. There's a little bit of a quirk in the open meetings, open records law though, as it relates to superintendents. When you get done near the end of the process and you have limited your choices to as many as 3 finalists, then you have the responsibility before you can actually vote and contract with an individual to be your superintendent. You've got to make sure that information on as many as 3 candidates is made available to the public. And there was a little bit of change in the law this past year as relates to that, but I brought you here on page 11 the actual verbiage so that you can see what we're talking about. And we'll help you walk through that as we go through the process should you desire that we assist you with your search. Questions so far? All right, let's look at the 17 steps in our process. As I said, we fine-tuned this over over several years. First of all, go back to my point, is that the Georgia School Boards Association will not hire a superintendent for you. That's your job. First thing you have to do is to help us develop the parameters, the qualifications for the individuals that you want to apply. For example, do you want, is it mandatory that your next superintendent have a terminal degree, a doctorate? Is it mandatory that your next superintendent have had superintendent experience? Is it mandatory that your next superintendent have had superintendent experience in Georgia? And the list goes on and on. Those are the kinds of things that the board will decide up front. And that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the search process. Now, I'll go into this a little bit more depth a little bit later, but that's really the key to a successful search. That the Board of Education can decide on the criteria or the qualifications that you want your candidates who apply for this superintendency to meet. And then we'll see later that we, on your behalf, will take all the applications and measure the applications against your yardstick that you have set, the yardstick being the qualifications that you have set. We also will work you through the process of establishing a timeline. It's important that we have a very definite timeline so that not only the board, but also the community and your staff, as well as the candidates, know the time frame under which you want to operate. We will assist you once we get the qualifications from you. We will assist you in developing a draft of a printed announcement, an announcement brochure. And that announcement brochure will be our responsibility once the board approves it. Be our responsibility to mail that to our contacts. And we have in the neighborhood of 1,400 folks on our mailing list, plus several hundred more on our e-list, our electronic list, that have said that they want to receive notices of superintendent searches that GSBA is involved in. We'll work with your staff to make sure that there's an appropriate posting on your website, and that we touch all bases as far as legal requirements and notifying the Department of Education, the colleges and universities in your area that prepare educational leaders and so forth. And we will, once again, once the board approves that, then we will be responsible for the mailing. That's the grunt work that we're talking about. Number 4 is one that board members really appreciate. we would request that any questions about the search come to GSBA rather than you individually. If you've got several hundred candidates who are just wanting to know, are you sure that the application deadline is February the 10th or whatever? You don't need to be bugged with all that stuff. That's why you would pay us the small amount of money that we're getting to assist you. We would deal with the questions and the comments related to procedures and the like. A lot of that comes in when we post the search and they want to know a little bit about the deadlines and what it means for some of the questions on the application and so forth. We will receive the applications on your behalf. Our staff will go through those applications and make sure they're complete. Dr. Woodard and I won't say anything bad about our friends as administrators, but sometimes they forget to dot an I or cross a T, or they leave out a component of the application. And so when the applications come to you, you need to be assured that they are complete. And so we will take the applications, we'll go through them page by page and make sure that the applications are complete. If not, we'll contact the applicant and get them to give you the information or give us the information on your behalf that you need. Once the deadline is over, once the deadline that you've set has been met, then we'll bring in a team of educational professionals, people who are former superintendents in quality school systems, retired board members, people in colleges and universities who have helped prepare educational leaders. We've got a couple of folks who've retired from school districts who were HR leaders and the like. We'll bring in a team of usually 3 individuals. And we will take the qualifications that you have voted on, and then we will judge those applications against your qualifications. And as you can imagine, that's quite a detailed activity. But what we will do then is to basically divide the applications into 3 groups. One group will be those who most closely meet the qualifications that you've set. The second group would be those who do not meet all the qualifications you've set, but have met the most. For example, you might say that one of your qualifications is that in order to be considered for the superintendency here in Newton County, a person will have had to have been a principal. But we may have some quality candidates, someone who's been successful superintendents either in Georgia or out of state, who came up the instructional side of the ledger or the business side of the ledger. And so you need to know about those. If we have somebody that very closely meets your qualifications but don't meet all of them, those folks would go into stack 2. And then the third stack would be those who miss the mark considerably. Then we would, on your behalf, conduct reference checks on the folks that we deem most likely to have met your qualifications, so that when we come to you as this process nears completion, that we can share with you all the applications. They're your applications, but we will say to you, these are the ones that most closely fit your qualifications, and we have conducted reference checks on those, and here's what their references say about them. And then the Board of Education, once we review those applications, you would decide which of the applicants that you wish to interview. Then if the board decides, we have a fairly short training session on how to interview candidates. Now, I'm sure, please forgive me, I'm not insulting your intelligence. You certainly have the knowledge and expertise and experience to interview candidates. But there's some tips and techniques that we'd like to share with you that might make your interview process a little bit more effective. And particularly, we need to make sure that we don't get off into the legal briar patch, and that we don't say to candidate Eddie Johnson, if we hire you here, will you attend the First Baptist United Church? Those kinds of things. But we can do that if if you decide that you want us to do that. Once the board decides whom they want to interview, then we will set up the interviews for you at a time and place that the board decides. We will, again, as part of that, I keep calling it grunt work, but we will set those interviews up for you and have the candidates at a certain place at a certain time so that the board can go through the interview process. Then the board has several options from that point. Number one, they can decide that there are several candidates that they want to bring back for second interviews, or they can say, boy, we've got one person here who's really hit it out of the park, and that's the person we want. Let's see if we can get them signed up. Or you may decide that you want to interview some more candidates. You have that option as a local board of education. And at that point, you're getting down into the short rows of the superintendent search process. You would be hopefully prepared to select the superintendent. At that point, the 14 days kick in, where you would announce as many as 3 finalists that you have determined to have met the qualifications, and then the clock ticks, and our friends from the media will have the opportunity to do an investigation, if you will, of those 3 candidates as you wait for the 14-day period to be over. And if at the end of that time you're prepared and ready to sign that individual to a contract, then you would have completed your work as during the superintendent search process. Now let me back up a couple of steps. And James, if you give me a hand again. Would you pass out one of those brochures? This will be familiar to you. And also this. And if you don't mind, make sure the media gets a copy of that last one. The brochure, the advertising brochure is a key component of this process because it does 2 things, well, among others. But number one, it lets the candidates know what the qualifications are that the board has set. They know that these qualifications are the yardstick for against which they're going to be judged as they apply for the job. The second thing it does, and just as important, is that this sells your school system to prospective applicants. It has information here about your school district, about the community, about this quality school system that you want people to know. Then the third thing that this does is this lets everybody know when the deadline for applications might be and the time frame. We would ask a couple of things as we prepare this brochure. First of all, we would ask that the Board of Education name a contact person for GSBA. It can be your chair or anyone that you wish. But we found it to be a lot more conducive to a smooth search if we have an individual contact between GSBA and the board. And then all the information would flow to GSBA that we need from the school district, and it would flow to you as a board from GSBA, and that way we know that everybody's getting the same information. And typically it's your PR person at the central office who helps us with what I call the Chamber of Commerce information that you see in here about your school district and about your community. Once the applications start coming in, and in your package you've got a sample form that looks a little bit like this on the buff-colored paper, we would send the board each Friday through our contact person a profile of the candidates that we've received to that point. And so you would know periodically how many candidates have applied up to that point, what their degree is, what they're doing currently, and where they're from. This would have been a summary that went to a school board somewhere in Georgia, at the end of the search process. In this case, they received 44 applicants. We sent out 1,380 brochures, and you can see that 23 of those who applied, along with the 5 PhDs, 28 had terminal degrees. And you can see where those folks were from. This document will go out to the board weekly through your contact person. If you look at the sheet that James shared with you, sample time frame, that's one of the questions that everybody wants to know. How long did it take? We found that once the Board of Education decides to enter into a contractual agreement with GSBA, it takes about 3 weeks to get the brochure developed. And as you can see, if this, and I'm not being presumptuous, I'm not assuming that you're going to sign a contract with us. I just wanted to see how it might work should you decide to use our service. If you were to decide to enter into an agreement with GSBA to assist you in your search, then we probably would be able to have the brochure completed. That would be with the input of the board on the qualifications and the input from the school district on the public relations information on or about the 18th of January. Generally, a Board of Education likes to have somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks for the application deadline before it closes. 6 weeks is probably sufficient. As we found, you're going to wind up getting the majority of the applications the last 2 or 3 days of the process anyway. People in my profession are great procrastinators, and I say that with all due respect, Dr. Matthews. But you'll get most of the applications the last week of the process. So if we were to mail the brochure somewhere on or about January the 18th, have the search open until the first day of March, then we need about 2 weeks to review the applications and do the reference checks on your behalf. We would come back to you somewhere around the week of March 18th and do a report. And by the way, that report would be an executive session because we're at the point of this, of the search here, where we're getting into confidential information and so forth. And the open meetings law very specifically allows that to happen. We would meet with you probably somewhere around during the week of March 18th. Then, depending upon the board's calendar, you would establish the interviews, probably beginning the week of March 25th. And then, depending on how long it takes to do the interviews, depending on how many candidates you interview, and so forth, the process would be winding down in mid-April. And you would be able to negotiate a contract with the candidate that you have chosen. The brochure that I've shared with you, as I said, that'll be familiar to some of you, is the one that you developed in the research. And I reviewed that, and somebody really hit a home run on this brochure and developing the qualifications and so forth. So I would encourage you, as the Board of Education reviews the qualifications of the next superintendent, that you take a look at what you've done in the past to see if that's something that you might want to continue in the future. Secondly, in your materials, you've got this document. We would, if you agree for us to do the search, then we would poll the board electronically and allow the board to have feedback into the qualifications that that you wish to see in the next superintendent. And then we would summarize that information and give it back to the board through the contact person, And from that, we would provide a draft list of qualifications. And so we would prepare for you then, once the board has had the opportunity to review the brochure and to participate in the board survey, we would develop, along with your PR staff, the brochure that would come back to the board for your review and for your approval. There is also in your packet a sample of a community survey. Sometimes the Board of Education wants feedback from the community, and we would be prepared to do that as part of the service. The way that works is that we post the survey we ask your staff to post the survey on your website, and you work with your local media to let the community know, and particularly let the staff know that there's an opportunity for feedback. And we would provide you with that information weekly as a search progresses. And where you would use the community information would be as you near the end of the search, and you can see if the candidates meet not only the board's qualifications, but the desires of the community as well. Questions so far? Forgive me for rushing through. How much does it cost? That's always the question. If we were Kroger, we'd call this a loss leader as far as GSBA is concerned, because what we charge does not cover our our expenses totally. What we try to do is to ask the Board of Education to cover our out-of-pocket expenses, not to cover our staff time and those kind of things. So the entire package, everything that I've outlined to you at this point, is $8,000. And we haven't gone up on that in a long, long time because we view this as a service. It's certainly not a profit service for GSBA. In addition to the $8,000, the Board of Education will be responsible for reimbursing our staff for trips back to Covington from our office when we come here on search business. And we use the IRS reimbursement rate for that. It usually takes about 3 trips. And by the way, tonight doesn't count. This one's on our tab. If there were any lodging, then, and there probably would not be because our office is only about 30 or so miles away, you just have some mileage to reimburse us. There are some things that you can do if you wish that would cost you more money. Sometimes a Board of Education will want to advertise in national publications. New York Times, Education Week, the American Association of School Administrators magazine, and those kinds of things. And if you wish to do that, then you would have to pick up the cost of those advertisements, and those can get quite expensive. In this day and age of the internet, people all over the country will know about your superintendent search. We do reference checks without any charge. If you wish for us to do criminal or financial background checks, we can do that for you. We have a company that provides that. It costs about $50 each. But you also internally have an opportunity to do that. As you know, anytime you hire somebody now, you have to go through that process. So you may or may not want to have us to do that for you. And then finally, when you set up the interviews, the Board of Education can decide if you want to reimburse the candidates for their expenses related to the interview. For example, if you have an out-of-state candidate coming from Ohio or Virginia or whatever, would the Board of Education be willing to help offset the cost? Or if you have someone driving in from South Carolina and they have to spend the night, would you want to reimburse them for that? That's a decision that you can make later. So, Mr. Chairman, that pretty much runs the table.
Well, thank you, Dr. Plunkett. I guess our next line of duty would be to ask the board members if they would consider the school GSBA as the sole unit, I guess I can say that, to do the search. And then the first thing we do, we need to get an approval of that. So can I have a motion? Unless you have, anybody have any questions first?
I have some questions.
Okay.
Is somebody down there? Oh, I thought
No,
somebody
just,
said.
it said need a motion seconded for discussion.
You can discuss it.
You want me to do my discussion now?
After, what's your choice? Go ahead.
Go ahead. Whichever you would prefer, because I have questions regarding the other option.
Well, go ahead with your questions, and
Okay.
we can do that.
Okay, just for some clarity, the other option, if we did not go with GSBA, is Griffin Risa, which does a search for free. And it might tie into actually you too, Dr. Puckett. I'm not sure, but I see the list that you gave me, Fayette County Schools is on there, and they're number 242 out of 245. And it says a fiscal year search for 2013, so that's recent.
That's correct.
And Fayette County is within Griffin Risa. Fayette County has a makeup, I was looking at 20,000 students, a little bit over 20,000, but under 21. They have 30 schools plus an open campus, and they chose to go with GSBA over Griffin Risa. Griffin Risa has never done a superintendent search before, and when I look on the website, on Griffin Risa's website, they don't even advertise that they do a superintendent search. And then I tried to Google it to find information about them announcing that they're doing superintendent searches, and that's not even on there as well. And so then my concern becomes that we become like a test. So when did they start doing it? Because we will be the first system. And if you got two, and then even looking on down the list at 227, Butts County is even on the list. You did a search for their new superintendent that they have now, and they're in Griffin Risa, and Butts County has how many schools? So even the smallest school system still chose to go with GSBA over going with a free person. So that's just my concern.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your comments, and it was just add, from my perspective, anybody else can add on. I'm aware of that history. That
so
is.
It would be the test.
I'm sorry. So you probably noticed that's why I was going very rapidly to get approval for GSAP. I was aware of that. But any other comments? Okay. Are we ready to now accept GSAP as our search engine? I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a proper second. All in favor of using GSAB as our search engine for superintendent, let it be known by the word aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. I guess now the next thing that we'll have to do, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Buck, is determine the information that we'll use for the qualifications or the brochure. Now, I guess we'll take the brochure in its entirety, and if there are any questions on the brochure, we can discuss that now, and if necessary, we can vote on each of the qualifications listed in the existing brochure. Is that a normal?
That's one process in boards. Sometimes, of course, you can add qualifications as well.
Okay. Any suggestions from the board members as to how they would like for this to proceed?
I think, in my opinion, I think it would be to our advantage to maybe review this and everybody go over them and submit the recommendations of additions or deletions to you by a certain date, and then we compile information together and then have time to discuss it and go from there. That's my recommendation.
Okay. Any objections to that recommendation?
May I make one proposal?
I'm sorry?
May I make one suggestion?
Sure.
That in addition to that, allow us to do our electronic poll with the board, because there might be some suggestions there that you might not have thought of, and that can feed right into what you just said, Mr. Turner, that you feed your suggestions into the board chair. We will develop that draft from that, and keep in mind that nothing goes anywhere until a board has approved it. When's your next board meeting?
January 8th.
That should not, if we were able to get the qualifications approved by the board on that date, that should allow that proposed time frame that I mentioned to you to fall without any major obstacles.
Question. Discussing the qualifications, could we, if it will create a timeline problem, could we just have a call meeting to do this that would help, speed up the process?
That's certainly your option.
Well, just as, let's compile the information, and I'll put it together as to what each board member has selected. Now we got something we can talk from instead of everybody bringing in at a given time. Is that permissible?
I do have a question.
Sure.
I'm sorry, that's related to that. I would like to do the community online survey, and that would actually tie into that qualification piece as well, based on these questions that's on here. So, and I don't know, like, what's the time frame we would have to do that? And the reason why I would like to do that is I would like to get just a community involvement in this and their feedback. I think it worked well with the budget process when we were doing that. And so, and then it helps with that transparency piece as well.
Let me ask you this.
Explain how that works for most school districts.
Okay.
We would suggest that the board go ahead and develop the qualifications so that we can get the brochure out and about. Then each week, through our contact person, the board will get an update on the community survey. And so then as you get near the end of the process, you have that community feedback, and you can determine from that community feedback if the candidates we bring you not only meet the board's qualifications, but the suggestions from the community as well.
Yeah, because I.
And again, just to remind you, the way that would work is that we would ask your school district to post that link on your website, and then to get to the media how that can be accessed, and then we will bring you that information weekly. And so it tends to make a really good fit that way.
Yeah, that sounds great. I just felt like that's important. I felt like doing this was important instead of being a test, because our next superintendent will do the accreditation with us in 2014, I believe.
March of 14.
March of 14, so.
And that community report, we bring it to you divided into 3 categories. We will ask the people who complete the survey to identify themselves only by, are they a parent, are they a non-parent member of the community, or are they a staff member? So that you'll have that information divided into those categories so you can see if there's a discrepancy between what your staff sees in the new superintendent versus the community. So that's usually quite helpful.
Let me back up for clarity, please. Dr. Please. The input, you will give us the survey before?
I will send that to you electronically tomorrow.
Okay.
It'll come to your email address. And then once each of the board members completes that, that'll come back to us. And then I assume, is it safe to assume that Chair Johnson will be my contact?
For the time being.
All right. Then that'll come back to you, and you can share that with the board while they're looking at the qualifications in the brochure, and so y'all will be able to merge those into the documentation that they're going to provide to you.
Okay. Thank you. What is a date that the board would like to reconvene on to review the input of the documentation? Anybody got a suggested date?
I guess it will be depend upon when they can get the brochure together and get it to us, and then we can decide from that point.
Yeah, I probably would leave that pending Because it might fall right into your schedule for your
Exactly.
regular board meeting.
Okay.
Because of the holidays and so forth.
Exactly, yeah.
I suspect that if we can come to some agreement at that board meeting on the 8th, that would fit the schedule that we proposed quite well.
Okay.
So my recommendation would be kind of like what you're saying, is that between now and the 8th, which is our next board meeting, that he will get copies of the redrafting of the brochure to you.
Right.
Then once he gets that, that'll give us time enough to review it, make any changes, and then at that board meeting, we can go ahead and vote and approve it, and we'll be good to
That
go.
would be my suggestion. We'll work toward that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on the process? Thank you, Dr. Plunkett. Very well.
Appreciate the confidence you've shown, and we look forward to working with this board and this community as you select your next chief executive officer. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to sit.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again. Have a safe trip.
Thank you.
Oh, what happened here?
Did you go on? Looks like you did. Surplus properties.
Surplus property.
Okay, we'll go to item B, and new business. Mr. Barr.
Item B, new business. The superintendent recommends declaring the items on the attached surplus equipment forms as no longer serviceable to the school system and authorizing for the appropriate disposal of those items. The surplus equipment included in this request comes from the central office, Herd Mixon, Middle Ridge, Newton County Theme School, and the Service Center.
Any questions? Okay, next item. Thank you, Mr. Barr. Ms. Fury.
It's time to review the J policies. So we'll follow the same format that we've been following since we began the process. The superintendent recommends the adoption of the Board of Education policies per GSBA provided chart, which follows this covered memorandum. The recommended policies will be under review until voted on at the January 15th regular meeting. The background information, per prior Board of Education direction, the administration has worked with Marvine Brooks of GSBA to update the current Board of Education policy manual. As such, the chart that follows shows policies that are required, and they're listed: JAA, JB, JCAC, JCDA, JCDAE, JCDAG, JDA, JGC, JGCG, D, JGF, JGI, and JR. Some are discretionary, and they are listed as well: JBA, JBCC, JCDB, and JCEB, and some can be abolished due to other authorities such as state law or state board of education rule, or due to redundancy. And there's quite a long list there. I won't read them to you. And again, we'll look at this again in the January 15th meeting. It will stay out for review.
Any comments, questions? Thank you. See you next week on this, next month. Item D. Dr. Shannon.
Good evening. Dr. Matthews, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Item D represents the replacement of our data storage center that's located here at the board office. We recommend the bid submitted by Dell Computers for a 24 terabyte compliant storage array for $70,579.39. The current data storage environment was purchased in 2006, and as part of our overall storage and disaster recovery plan, Originally, all we needed at that time when we bought it was 4 terabytes, but we bought a system that would accommodate 12, figuring that would carry us for many years. Well, we have now reached that 12 terabytes, and so we, at the maximum level, cannot store any more data. And we're still storing data, but we're right at that limit, so we would have to do something very quickly. In addition to that, last fall, earlier this fall, that Dr. Matthews and I met with the Georgia School Board Association insurance carrier to talk about possibly replacing this data storage unit as part of the heat incident that occurred in May 2011. And they reviewed all the data that we provided them and decided that the age of the unit was such that it had reached its useful life and that it had depreciated all its value. So they did not provide us with any funds to buy a replacement. We reviewed and looked at and evaluated multiple different units from multiple different brands to see which unit would provide us the best functionality and the best value. And after that evaluation took place, we decided that Dell offered us the best value. We negotiated with Dell to get the best possible price, and the price they provided us was below the state contracted price. So we feel like we got an excellent price on this product. So with that in mind, we recommend that you agree to let us purchase the Dell compliant storage array in order to replace the current one we have. And I would like to add that this storage array, when we bought the original one, it was $140,000. So this storage array is half the cost and double the storage. So we feel like we're getting an excellent product and at a very good price.
Okay, any comments, questions? I have, will that be redundancy in this?
Yes, sir. We have a backup system in place that backs it up now, but we also have a duplicate data storage center that's located currently at Middle Ridge. When we move out to the Career Academy in our network operations center, then we're going to take this new unit. In fact, we're going to have it delivered there and have it set up, and we'll never bring it here. We'll have it set up there at the Career Academy. At that point, when it's fully functional, then we'll move the backup unit, which is at Middle Ridge, move it up here and have the backup unit in this building. At that point, we will disable or turn over the room that we're using at Middle Ridge back to Middle Ridge so it can be used as a classroom.
Sound like a plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item,
You request a vote on this, Gary? You request a vote on this tonight?
Oh, yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Tonight they're voting on everything on the board.
I'm sorry. So,
Other items, too. You need to vote on the other items.
okay, I'm sorry. Okay. I need a motion and second to, if you no objections, to include item B and D with the same motion.
I move that we approve item B and D.
Have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item E, Dr. Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Following your vote tonight, I have an announcement. But that said, I recommend approval of items presented in executive session tonight.
Can I get a motion and a second on the superintendent's recommendation? Second, please.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor of accepting the recommendation, let it be known by the word aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. I'm pleased to announce tonight the appointment of the new principal for Middle Ridge Elementary effective the first day of the second semester of the school year. And that is none other than the current assistant principal at Flint Hill. So Mr. Michael Forehand will become principal of Middle Ridge effective as I suggested earlier. So we congratulate Michael and know that he will do a very, very fine job as new principal at Middle Ridge.
Thank you, Dr. Mathis. I just want to add a comment of appreciation on the safety meeting that I attended yesterday. I thought it was very timely and very meaningful. I enjoyed it. And I just absolutely think it was very productive, given the time and the situation that we have experienced. So I want to give you my hats off. You knocked that out of the park.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
I'd like to wish our faculty and staff, as I know all of you would too as well, a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Same here. If no other comments or questions, I need a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, sir.